No.
And neither do I. I'm agreeing with them. I think similar percentages can be handed out here. But we are going to the operator ban phase, and TSM on the defense will ban first. So, which one will be removed? Which of the attackers is Mkers not allowed to use? Thatcher. Quite normal. I don't see any revolutionary strategies right here coming off of the Thatcher ban compared to how often we have seen it over the last couple of days. And as the Nova now gets removed, that's the one Des called and is very often paired with a Valkyrie. And those two often, of course, removed from Consulate. So let's see if Mkers will do that, or if they're going to leave Valkyrie open. Oh, there it is.
It's right. No surprise.
No surprise.
It's no surprise. Valkyrie's gone. I mean, I've said this line every single time we go into Consulate because she's removed so often. I'll say it one more, just for the people that might not know. Consulate is 4 big, flat walls with about 5 million windows all the way around, and doors, and really good synergy of those things to be able to swing around and get in situations. There's a lot of trees. There's a lot of shrubbery. There's a lot of things that you can hide cameras in. There's a lot of space to dig them in. It's not like a map like Oregon where if you're throwing a camera out, you're quite limited in the space because 30 feet in most directions outside of the building, it gets destroyed.
Yeah.
It's broken.
Not here.
Not here, not Consulate. You get really deep, faraway cameras, which gives you great sight lines over the big corners and exteriors, and also inside. It's just a sort of long rectangle across every single floor. There's great places across the top of long. You can stick it on vending. You can sort of stick it on the opposite side. She's dangerous. She's not allowed on Consulate. Get her out of here. And they did.
They did indeed, and that means information has to be gained in a different way. And you can see the mirror coming out, for example, for TSM, but you can also see the Mozzie. That is, of course, the combination between denial and providing yourself with information if you manage to hack these drones. And we also have the Evil Eyes, which are very, very common on that bottom floor. Often one place in the back of that white van, just, of course, to make sure that the plant won't happen.
Very tall extension.
It is.
Using reinforcements all the way up on the connector on the top floor there.
You don't need many on that bottom floor.
No, and that's it. There's sort of a couple of places, especially if you're doing something.
You need 3 or 4. That's it.
The double mirror window there on the swing. They're not doing the extension inside the kitchen as well, rather than having the split on the small box office and on kitchen. They're just going to try and hold on to the top. And that's the thing about this map as well. When I mentioned synergy, it's not just in the windows, and it's just not just in the possibility of doing things like this, where he's looking for this opener. But if you play them open, if you've got the one open inside CEO, you drop down to piano, and you're already in a pressure situation, and then you can either just swing around yellow stairs and you're close, or you can go around the other way, and then you're close to the bathroom hatch, which if they've got that open, they don't, it's locked. But as a point of example, there's a lot of quick rotations from the top to the bottom. So them being so removed from the site, it's not the biggest danger.
Very long opening there from that, allowing Bolo to go for a bit of a rotate down into piano if he is being pressured. Now the other way out would be through the window. We've seen Joystick do it in the group stages. What I wanted to highlight though is the fact that the reinforcement in the theater came through in projector room. That is going to be slowing down potential rotations from the attackers and make sure that they have to take full side control, full top floor control, if they want to get one of these hatches to rotate down quickly to piano. So Mkers, as they are starting to sweep out that top floor, it is going to be, I believe, just Bolo. That is, no, actually, he does have some other support as well. I believe it is achieved. That is with him. Yes, there we have it. Bolo right behind the hedge and achieved on the top of the yellow stairs. Maybe holding it off.
Yeah, come round to offer some support here, as you can see that they're steadily droning ahead. Consulate, it is quite a tough map when the attackers are good at window control. They just need to lock off the back of this anvil. They go for something very bold. I don't know if they knew that Bolo was that sort of close on the angle. I think they thought he had potentially gone around to the top and it was just the one loose. It was a bit of a misplay there. He got really aggressive and that was quite an easy pickup as the man brought his hammer back down to his hands. There's a hop out, there's a drop down, and there's finally revenge. But Bolo, I mean, this is what we talk about. This map, it offers you so many options to throw yourself out and usually find a kill, but look at what's been taken out of the aggressors now. They've got to really find a quick bit of pace. Sure, Bolo's dead, but after he dropped your sledge for that piano room, you've still got the buck, thankfully, but you lose those frags and your ash as well. For any of those banshees, there's one more. as they swing around. And now you don't have the buck either. You've lost piano control physically. You've lost another man. And TSM have taken all of Consulate.
Let's just stop saying, you know, you lost your sledge, you lost your buck. They lost everything.
They lost everything.
And they were able to, and they were allowed to, open up the garage wall, but that's basically as far as it managed to come, because there was no denial. They were allowed to do that, but you had Bolo jumping out of the window, taking the joystick way out, you could almost say. Of course, that wasn't due to him being under pressure. No, it was due to him hearing the rappel in that moment in time, deciding to go for it because of the fact, like, as soon as you're in that rappel animation, it's very hard for you to try and challenge anybody that is taking a gunfight with you in that case. So that was going to be a guaranteed win for him. Unfortunately, wasn't able to rotate all the way to safety as it was being pressured down, but still 2 kills. Very big of an impact here for TSM as he's just flicking between Goyo and Wamai.
Yeah, that kill there. He's obviously hopped out and he saw the loose body. Maybe he didn't quite register it because everything happened so fast. There was the cover that came through, but getting the guaranteed one either way, and then achieved, obviously, retaking the top and locking off one more body. The last drop, to say quickly, popped up and everything else, but that was just a response to anything Mkers tried to do. They wanted to get some control. It was a bit slow and a bit cautious. And for all the times that we've seen and criticized TSM about not covering their flanks and not covering their, or Roma even, that was it. They just dug in, were able to get the opening kill, and then obviously, as we saw, achieved rotate into position to just keep the pressure hot, keep themselves, I guess, battling back. And now we go to lobby. We go to a slightly different setup and a hold here. There's still, you've got to take over the verticality. You've got to take over the top unless you try something quick and very aggressive. And yet again, you've got a heavy presence up there.
Do have a very heavy presence on that top floor, but that is due to how powerful verticality is in Rainbow. Got to make sure that, you know, you have that high ground, and that is something Mkers will try and see if they can take control of it. Aware of the fact the balcony has been punched open and the connector as well, so Scato is basically stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Cannot really challenge one without being challenged from the other.
Definitely, I was going to say, it definitely doesn't make things easy, but that, yeah, again, the high pressure towards anti-chamber, it looks like they're trying to eye up and just say, look, our presence is here, but there's a lot of those angles that are dangerous that they can't delve and dip too wide on. Here it is, though. The pops around the corner for Gemini. They're trying to really dig that mirror out. They want to make sure that this sort of core and this backbone structure of the site starts to fall as Merc's under intense pressure a little bit more, and he has to pull back, but I think there's going to be pressure coming from the backside of him as well. Mkers have just dug in to the middle and the heart of this push right now. They're not entering the building as of yet. They're keeping the fight from the windows to keep them at arm's length.
Mute Jammers are stopping the Selmas from actually going off on that back wall, and that means they need to deal with that utility. And well, the way to do that is either get an explosive in or take control. And there is still that grenade left on Scato they can use to try and get the control off it. But as Geo is going quite aggressive, they're not going to be able to angle it in quite as well as they would maybe want to if they would decide to go for it. And thus now Mkers need to discover if there's maybe another way into that site without them having to deal with the bathroom as it currently is located and as it currently is situated, because there is all these angles being watched and it's basically impossible to go for a plant in this case.
Geo slipping his way back up, but then we just saw the body actually drop down, took the hatch round circle and might try and find some violence out from the Visa side instead. Again, there's always the danger of runouts, there's always the danger of fresh pushes and perspective, and there it is. Charla and Geo are able to get one apiece there. They're dug in underneath as Akwi gets at least a body back, but with the front door being such a high pressure point and that Banshee ready to scream as soon as anyone enters, they know that there's huge danger coming.
Oh, all right, there we have it. Maybe a jump out. Yeah, that's from the balcony. Sasha taking a little bit of damage, but will stay alive. So the important part there is that he is still able to fight. Slolan now putting up a pressure from the window. They are nowhere near the site yet. They need to move in from the yellow stairs, and the question is, will they do so? As Lolo spots down the feet, will be able to get one kill. That turns it into a 2-on-3 here for Mkers, and Charla trying to bring it back, but won't be able to.
Well, 10 seconds left. They're inside Anti, and they're able to take it back. Mkers, they did so much work before they entered, and I think that was the big play before. Last time they had to try and dig in and get Bolo, and I commented that it's a map where if you have these anvils on the backside, the hammer that moves through the site on the wind can push them towards the window anvils. This time they sort of were able to do a lot of structural damage towards the middle. It's like a Jenga tower, and they're trying to knock out those middle blocks to start to make things tumble. And yeah, and we could see the rotations coming from TSM. Round the back of the spiral stairs towards the lobby, and then dropping down and going for a fight elsewhere, not quite catching it. It was much better from Mkers, but I think they can still step into this a little bit more.
Definitely can. Beautiful shots, though, coming through. Charla able to jump out as well. And TSM had such a big advantage, and Mkers basically doing what TSM was doing throughout the coastline game, and that is bringing back these big deficits into your favor and bringing them in your own hands and making sure that you stay competitive throughout the map. Now we're going for the split side. TSM using the Mew Gemmers to set themselves up. Of course, the replay's ending. There you have it. Now we can see it. Also, is that the main? I think that's the main hatch that is being electroclawed off. Both hatches in Visa. There will be to make sure that no quick rush, for example, could be coming through. Either with an Hibana putting up some pellets or an Ace just tossing at some Selmas and then just running down the hatch and make sure you outrun the players on that bottom side. It will be electrified, and that means it's going to be a lot harder to try and deal with that. And you're looking at it, okay, how would you deal with it? I think the only way really would be to try and cook a grenade just enough that as soon as it goes through the flooring, it explodes to take care of the electric claw. Otherwise, not going to be able to pick that one up. And that basically forces Mkers to either go through garage or go for the top-down approach.
Well, the pressure's here coming underneath. They had an idea that someone was around. That camera is going to give the game away. And here's the quick pressure. Sasha is just sticking the diffuser. The smoke's come through a little bit later, but it's a 4 versus 3 versus 4 post-plant situation. They dug in, went quick, and they said, well, you want to stop the rush here? We'll go somewhere else. 3 versus 3. Still 3 C4s left in the pockets of TSM. That can be a bit of an opener. It can be a bit of a problem maker as Lolo dances a dangerous game and the first starts to pop off. Has some cover and a flash down inside to make sure nobody's able to find their way through. Gets a great pick and doesn't quite man the C4. The pistol pre-fire doesn't hit it, but the cover's round on the backside instead. 1 versus 2 now, as they've just got to try and dig their way back around. It's achieved. Still left as he's going to try and go for the defuse. Will he stick it? No, he pulls off just in time, and unfortunately, they can't quite lock it off. Scatto does. And Mkers, well, they took one of the 2 rush options. The one that...
you know, I was like, they cannot rush the bottom floor now.
Nope.
So they would have to go through garage if they want to attack it. But instead, they're like, Hap, you forgot the part. Like, we cannot rush the bottom floor side. But that you didn't say we cannot rush the top floor side. So why don't we just pull that option out? And then, you know, they did it. They perfectly did as well. Before anybody would even notice what was going on. And, well, smoke canisters, of course, masking the verticals. The plan went down 45 seconds suddenly on the clock. And it happened within 40 seconds of the round. That's when the diffuser went down. Very quick here from Mkers.
I think that was it. Is TSM wanted a bit of a battle of attrition. They had set up a lot of jammers, the Mozzies, they were playing the Vigil with the Pulse as well.
Didn't expect it.
No, they knew exactly what game they wanted to play, which was a long one. One that they might be able to pick some of the health away with those, I think it was 3, 4 C4s potentially, that they had at the beginning of the round. And then Mkers said, no, we're not playing that game. We see the game that you want to play, and we're going to take the risk. And it paid off for them. I guess if we see the split site again, we might see potentially a different setup, a different hold, and a different bit of awareness towards the pace that could be applied there. And, you know, you have one body that's inside admin that's looking down towards across Visa or directly above the hop-in window that they used just before the connector. You might see a little bit more success. Either way, we're back here on the top floor. They have the same holds, or similar at least to what they did before, where Bowler was able to dig in and put a lot of pressure down very early. Again, my eyes here are now Mkers. What are they going to change? What are they going to step up here to try and get a response? Because before, they dug themselves in and got dropped from a little bit of a misplay, I'll say, on the side of the sledge.
Yeah. Definitely so. And, well, you see that mirror window coming up again, and it's not really something that was used the last time around. Mkers was allowed to open up, and that is something they put the priority on this time around. So they're not letting it wait until everybody is dead on their team. Now they're doing that first thing, because now you can try and clear out these roamers. You can go for the top-down approach, and as a hatch is still being reinforced, I believe, in theater, Could have been Bolo losing his life right there on the player that was on that balcony if he would have decided to go for it. If the information was there, his life will still go, though. Akwe able to pick him up. Very quick pace coming down here from Mkers, who decided that maybe this quicker pace that they're used for is really something they can abuse and make sure that TSM will struggle dealing with it.
Achieved suffered so much from a grenade, I'm assuming pop. No, it was an explosion though, so I'm not entirely sure what hit him. Either way, him and Lolo have both left it with a lot of damage, and they've been able to pull apart. Maybe his own C4 almost cost him. It's now Mkers, and they've been able to put their own pace here across the top floor. They've been able to obviously get the first pick. Bolo opened with a double, but hasn't really found any success since then. They sort of suffered one mistake and have learned very quickly, okay, we need to approach them from a different angle. We need to be a little bit less cavalier, but still keep that pace. It's that lockdown that was so synonymous with Mkers throughout all of their plays so far. The drone coming around the corner as suddenly there's Akwe, suddenly there's Gemini. There's just this intense pressure that comes around the back of their drone game, and here with a minute 10 they're opening up in front of the white van. They're seeing if they can get the angles, and Achieved isn't in a position to swing around and try and get this kill again.
Oh, just holding off the top floor, hoping to find a player that goes aggressive around the white van, but still of course has the opportunity to open up lots of the floor to get up with Scato. Critical play is in their control. 45 seconds are left on that clock. And, well, there is still utility for them to deal with. But luckily, they now have a two-man advantage. Scatter will drop Merc onto the ground. Achieved will still be playing in the backside. Inside of Archives will be the one man that can lock down a potential back push, and that makes sure that that Chala and Geo now can focus on a potential push from the garage side of things. And that means they can use their smoke canisters and their nitro cell to make sure that this plant will not happen. They need to make sure as well that they have the information and they have the timing right, as there's only 10 seconds left on that clock. Geo will go down. The last smoke canister has been used, and that means they need to deny this plant now. They need to have the vertical control to make it happen, because Gemini is going to be able to pick up the kill. Chala and Achieved as well, the double. Mkers with a flawless round here are turning it around. It's 3 consecutive rounds for them. 1-3.
Very focused, very sort of laser locked in on what they needed to do there. They had the cover in the right place. They're starting to get a bit of the control, a bit of the base is covered, which has otherwise been a big flaw and a big hole in the armor that they were otherwise locking off here. The Jackal track and the ping pick up instantly towards Bolo. They knew his rotation and they made sure to be there before he hit the pass, instead of going for, as we said, a little bit of a danger and danger do attitude. The Gemini either side of the double either side of the pillar there, and TSM, understandably, are going to take a tactical. They're going to take a moment to, I guess, see if they can stop the growing pace of Mkers, but try and find some of their own again.
Yeah, right now we have 2 consecutive opening kills as well on the Mkers side. Something we know they can really grow into. Now, it wasn't that obvious during Coastline, because TSM able to bring back these disadvantageous positions every single time. But Mkers seem to be bringing that themselves now. So far, only 1 plant in this map. Sasha, that was, of course, during the rush round that we had in number 3. Teller's Archives. Plant was at, I believe it was like 2 minutes, 19 seconds left on that clock or something in that case. So a very quick one coming through. And TSM not really able to reply. And what you saw in the round number 4, like Mkers learned from that round. They went for a quick pace, they went for a rush, they managed to make it stick and work. And then they decided, you know, what if we just enter the building quickly? There's going to be 1, maybe 2 players upstairs that will be playing in CEO and on the yellow stairs, but admin is probably going to be clear. And you see 2 players just running into that basically, or rushing themselves inside. And that allows you to grab the angle, allows you to grab the opportunity of picking up a Bolo. That was still reinforcing, was still trying to rotate into his right position.
Tactical time. And the changes, it might come through here. Lobby, to be fair, they held on a bit, but suddenly Mkers had this ability to swan in and try and find all the frags they needed to. TSM bit back a lot more on this site than I would say that they were able to on the previous 2, though. They had responses for a lot of the questions. It's not completely out of the water for them to have this as a good swing site rather than go back down to garage and try and double down and lock it off here. I think this is a wiser decision. It gives them some room for growth and some room for change. They're setting up in a pretty similar way. And I think that's, I guess, where my curiosities are drawn, is how are they going to alter the hold and potentially the movements that they tried to bring in when things started to get a little bit more heated up and started to get a little bit more diverse.
Now, I believe that we saw some quick challenge being put up here by Scatto, who's trying to get rid of the mirror player that is inside of the bathroom, of course. One grenade already tossed in and might be using that as a bit of a vertical, but we know the way that the mirror window was deployed the last time around. Just a soft window, so a quick explosion from the Zofia would be enough to make sure that the mirror window disappears. Doesn't seem like Gemini's looking forward at, though, as he is trying to clear out Visa. Maybe going for a bit of a back push. Make sure that the Visa stairs, the spiral stairs, will be under their control. And you can shut down the circle desk player from the back.
It's a steady approach as they find at least one creeping up from the bottom of Harry Potter. It's a long spray towards the feet of Achieved. He pulls back, and Scatto's trying to apply pressure everywhere, but it's Gemini that actually suffers first. Zofia's off the board. Geo with this rotating Jaeger. We talked about what he could have done the last time we were on lobby site, and this time he's able to strike a little bit earlier, put some damage in, and put some pressure around as he waits for them to leave admin across the top, but Acqui drops Merc in the meantime. I'm curious what angle he might still have there, whether he pulled away as they approached vending. It's a lot of pressure now coming towards Bolo on the far side. Has a shield, and there's Geo, actually. He's slow creeping underneath the hatch. Scatto, though, takes care of the man. They popped over the top of the shield, I believe, and yet again, Scatto is off. He's trying to find a different confrontation somewhere else.
I'm not sure what happened there. We'll surely see it in the replays, but I think he just drew a grenade to get rid of the shield and pre-fired it in case the player would go away from it. But Bolo was in a different room. There was still a closed wall in between them, and they just managed to get the shot down and get the kill. Of course, we'll get confirmation on that a little bit later, but first, 45 seconds left on that clock. There is going to be a Jackal track on a player downstairs, so they don't have to worry about him too much. But now it looks like Acqui might not be very well aware as the plan is going down that there was one on the top of white.
While the popped C4 goes off, that one just hits, but just not in time. The diffuser is able to be planted now, and suddenly Charla's finding himself digging deeper and deeper and further towards that diffuser. Scatto locks off the mount, the Visa stairs, with Acqui with a double on the backside of Spiral and Mkers. Keep the momentum after the tactical timeout and find themselves 4-1 on their Consulate attacks.
The plant went down just in time. I think it wasn't more than a couple of milliseconds. If we can get that slowed down on the replay, that would be great. Just
that would have been close.
How far the defuse was in at the moment that kill came through. It was absolutely really close. And with that, TSM now trail 1-4. They were starting to maintain that top floor pressure. They were starting to take the top floor control, and all the chaos that was happening and the scans coming through and the players realizing they couldn't be rotating up Spiral, the plant went down. And well, Chala tried to make it work with a C4 but didn't get the call just early enough. And beautiful shot there as you actually, here you get it. That's the kill onto Bolo. Just sprays and manages to get Bolo. He just walks right into the crosshair, and there you have it. Just down. I think it's like literally 0-0-5 or something like that. But it's enough for Mkers to get the round on the back of it. Acqui here denying Chala, who tried to maybe go up for an in-your defuse or something like that. And Acqui then with the double kill, locking it off. Now there's one more round left for Mkers on their attack to try and, well, make sure that they're giving TSM a bit of a revenge for what happened on Coastline. And there's one more round left for TSM here to show up and be like, hey, let's put this into a 2-on-4 situation so we have a bit of a better chance on our attacks ourselves. So far, Mkers, like we said at the last map, Mkers not really doing well. Well, it's really TSM that's not really doing well. It's Mkers. Oh, beautiful shot. Never mind, I didn't say anything.
Well, Bolo's been trying that quite a lot, and he's finally found some success with it. And whether that is paramount to the idea of Mkers being a little bit more laid back on their approach, or maybe it's Bolo heating up a little bit, digging himself into these defensive rounds, trying to follow the stretch that this map and this site can offer. 4 C4s are in pockets as they played before. They have that opening pick. They have that Jackal gone too, who is such a big part of being able to lock off Bolo and the top floor roams. There's Geo getting dangerous and giving them something to think about now as they're saying, listen, you're not getting comfortable this time. You came through and took our site. We're not letting you have a look at it on the second take.
All right. Mkers, a man down this time. Can you bring it around? Can you bring this to a 5th round? Smirk still on that top floor, roaming with the Vigil. Spots a drone, takes it out, digs himself in deep, but gets spotted from Scato, who gets the kill. Mkers turn it back to a 4-on-4. That's one of these roamers again knocked out. Something TSM is really struggling with these last 2 best-of-3s we've seen them play. Every single time, roamers get singled out, they get taken out, and no one is there to try and respond for it.
Gemini is around the back stairs, though. He wanted to, for a second, see if anyone was playing around the bottom of white, but there's still a lot of work to be done elsewhere. There's no need to try and throw himself down into the garage to take the fight underneath. He's happy to back up the rest of the work that's being done, the structural damage that's popping off on the top. There's still the concern. 3 C4s are left in the pockets. There's a pulse to give the instant read as to where anybody is, and they've sort of set themselves up for, okay, you want to get in this little box room, try it. Whether you hop up on a table or not, we have the many methods of blowing somebody out of the room many times. Lolo is the first to dance dangerously and the first to suffer the fate. Bolo popped perfectly timed with the information that's coming through, and there it is. The second one is almost instantly ready. Mkers don't have the clean entry. So Gemini is thinking about maybe digging down Spiral.
That's what they have to do, right? Because there's still 3 more Nitros they have to dig through if they want to get the plan down. And the only way to do that is go for these kills. But Gio and Bolo both pick up a kill before Sasha responds. It will not be for long. TSM able to pick up their 2nd round of this game. And that is at least a bit of a salvage for this health, because it wasn't really going too well, and this round really did turn it around a little bit. The spawn kill from Bolo starting it off in their favor, and then the Nitro that basically told Mkers, if you do not clear the bottom floor now, you will not be successful in this round whatsoever. So you gotta put some pressure onto us. You gotta come to us. And that is exactly what TSM wanted, who now themselves are going to be on the attack. And we see the 0 being brought out straight away to deal and help with the information game. That's, you know, we've seen teams struggle with sometimes.
Okay, TSM, now's your moment to see if you can lock it out, or if we find ourselves heading to this 3rd map. I talked about it on the previous map, where Mkers were able to find that little bit of momentum before it swang over to the other half, and it's a similar story here. They've been on the back foot, but TSM has this capabilities of solidifying themselves. And their attacks on this situation, or their attacks against this team previously, were very good. When they were on coastline, they had themselves completely wrapped around the Mkers defenses.
And that's it. Had themselves wrapped around well, and let's see if they can continue that now. They're not in the same situation as they were before, but it's not undoable. There's definitely a way into this, back into this this matchup here for TSM, because a 2-4 split is not too uncommon. Normally it is, of course, the defense that takes the lead on this, but we've seen crazier comebacks happen. From a 1-5 to a 7-5 victory. Ooh, Scato. A bit of a rubber band attached to himself.
A little bit of a moment.
A little bit of a moment. Attached to rubber band to the wall on himself. He's bouncing up and down, but is going to be able to just continue on his way. So no worries there. TSM looking to go quite heavy on the CEO. Is this going to be a push mode? Nah, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be going for a rush here. And I'm saying that quite convinced, even though Gio is with the diffuser repelled up as well.
So those SAM cams are going to offer them a lot of intel on anything that can swing round. It's an intel-driven game. It's a lot of tight rotations in some circumstances, but as I said before, the defenders have a lot of options for heading down. And they have a lot of options for getting out, and this will just give them more eyes, more ideas, and more input and intel if they decide to go for something a little bit less beaten than the staircases themselves. Here it is, top though, pop to give eyes underneath. Take care of that bulletproof and try and find some ankles, but nobody is home as of yet.
That shield is going to be the problem that they need to deal with first. And how are you going to do that? Is there any smokes in the lineup? You're quickly checking. Yes, Bolo has to. Now, you can technically make sure that they do not have a line of sight. It's not a wall, of course, but the plant's already going down. Geo managed to repel in, and it's happening, but the smoke is going to be popped, and that means Geo will have to relocate. Digs himself in deep behind the reinforced wall, and is going to try for a second attempt now.
Yeah, just sticking it. They have the cover in the angle. There goes another canister, but it goes a little bit too deep, and they're able to put it off with Achieved. Getting the lead off. Sasha goes down with Bolo getting the pickup round the back stairs, comes back up 1. But it's a 4 versus 2. They have to do an entire retake here. There's an outside repel, and there's 2 bodies under, or 1 body underneath the site. There's 1 directly on the antechamber window. There's 1 directly on the diffuser itself, and Scato's isolated on yellow stairs. Whichever way he goes, he has to drive through them on separate angles. But it's the bottom of yellow that takes him. Bolo is able to bring 1 more back for TSM. We said at the beginning of this, they have the potential because their attacks are so good.
Yeah.
It's threaded. They find pockets of space and they punish defenses that aren't paying attention. And there you would believe that Mkers, they weren't paying attention.
Well, I mean, you don't expect the push to come down that quickly. And I said it as well, like, they're set up for it, but I kind of don't want to believe it because it doesn't always work to just repel in and get that defuse down. Of course, it wasn't the 2-minute 40 like rush we saw from Mkers, but with 1 minute and 20 seconds on the board, is still plenty of time left. And they use so much utility, like the Ash Charge on the Evil Eye, the Sam Cam to get rid of the deployable camera right there, the bulletproof. So they were able to deny a lot of the information, and all they really had to deal with was the smoke canister. So what you do, you bait it out, you go deep on the wall, you get the defuser down. And as a result of that, you will win the round, as just portrayed. Same setup coming down from Mkers, though, as they want to make sure that this time around they will be successful. Because a loss would mean a 4-4 split here right now. A 4-4 round count.
The big change is the clash.
Yeah.
On the board, the fresh position that might be able to offer, they can put that in against those quick plants, those quick plays. It forces them to have to do something a little bit more driven with their utility before they can really dig in, whether they go for smoke cover, whether they go for, you know, potentially trying to grenade them out. They're a team that is frequently playing operators like Capital. They have that in their wheelhouse, and they're very good at it. So, if it's successful this round, you assume adaptation into that sort of camp potentially next time. But Mkers, they felt that they could double down here. They thought, what lost us this is something that we can learn from and something that we have learned from. It's time to prove it, I suppose, with this big extension over the 2 stories, with the, I guess, concern of Piano. They want to be a bit more locked in with this verticality.
They want to lock themselves in Bolo here with a quick entry into Archives. We'll be spotting out some feet as well, but it will be the clash, and now that operator will be revealed as well to the rest of the team. They are aware now there is a clash on the board, and mirror window there, very aggressively you would have to say onto the copy window. I don't even think it's going to be played, but it is still going to be giving away the information of the clash that is on the top of the Visa stairs.
So much pace here. It's an alternate take. Obviously, they've gone slightly different. You can see 1 body at the bottom of Visa stairs that wants to offer some support here. They're now quite isolated, though, as they find themselves just being the crossfire angle. And, well, TSM probably going to be aware of that sooner rather than later. They've got Lolo going deep and going for a slightly different location. He wants to cut off anything that might come around on the backside. He's making sure that they're not able to get him on the back of Visa as of yet, and he's always got that option to go back that way. So the Sam Cam is going to keep a keen eye as they just make sure it's locked off. It being dropped instantly gives the game that he is paying attention. He is down there. He is trying to be a problem. Whether TSM kind of leave a buffer there as the back line and just push the site, I suppose we can hear some of that hard destruction being done just now.
That drone is being watched, so Bolo is going to be aware of the fact if he moves into deeply the second Sam Cam as well, of course. So they're going to be trying to challenge the player that is in between Visa and in between the lobby room. He's out there. They need to get him. They need to get Lolo. They know how impactful he can be. Look at that drone from Achieve. They're trying to find out where he's coming from, and the Sam Cam should have given away the information that he is indeed inside. As they're still trying to play with it. It seems like they are going to be completely rotating to that top floor as Merc gets a grenade kill onto Akri, who just got down from the balcony.
A bit of a reverse hold there. They have the opening around the back of long desk instead, so he was still dug in the corner. It gives them a little bit more slight to play with here, but now, as you said, they're dropping down. They want to make sure that nobody sprays in from underneath. The body's hot pinged, achieved, goes for the fight, can't win it out, and it's Scatto in the meantime that does an important bit of work for Mkers up above. It's now screaming across the back of the top of lobby as they go for that opening onto the long desk, but he's dropped on the other side of the smoke. Merc comes out successful. Clash is being bullied in the corner. They've got to pick it up and try and stick it on the close wall. It's a 2 versus 1 technically. As Scatto locks it off, the other man's on yellow. He swings up, wasn't paying attention, and TSM bring us back balanced.
The cover is there. He got red pinks coming in. Of course, you're running for it in that case. You see the timer is 0, 0, 0. If you get that defuser, if you get the down, just a couple of shots in, the round would have been Mkers, but the cover is there. The Ash, after having a little bit of a scuffle, a little bit of a fight in lobby, able to rotate back up top just in time to make sure that TSM win that round. And we find ourselves on a 4-4 scoreline now. Equaled up. The Tachanka is being brought by Germany as an addition to the smoke. Now, when Tachanka was just being teased, we had a lot of people saying, all right, together with smoke, this is going to be the most overpowered duo you will ever be seeing. Yeah, yes, we barely see it. Now, of course, there has been some changes with this latest patch where the flames do more damage, there is more Shumikas in the launcher, there is, you know, quicker deploy time, for example. You see achieved there in the replay quickly, rotating up to get that final kill. And now we get to see how that Tachanka will be playing out with the smoke of Sasha. And the site that we will be playing on is going to be that basement. So I will dare to say is that they're going to be trying to force TSM to go for a take onto the vent. They want them to blend over there because then you have 10 of these Molotovs you can use. You have 3 of these smoke canisters. You have the evil eyes to feed the information as well. They're going to be trying and hope that they will push from the garage side because that is the best way that we will see this duo into effect.
Equal level pegging. They've been able to thread 3 rounds in a row across the 2 different halves. TSM creep ever closer to that 2-map lockout, and Mkers, they've started to lose some of that perspective, that hold they were able to bring so well and so consistently on their attacks. They really stepped up the pace for a few rounds, but unfortunately, since having the swap over, we're seeing similar things to Coast in the first split there, where TSM are just able to read them. They're able to find these holes, these problems, and Lalo gone so early. Yet again dropped, yet again a huge player unable to have effect because yet again TSM's early intel game, they're gathering, they're grabbing, and they're collapsing upon it is just pitch perfect.
Well, you talk about Intel and you look at their lineup and there's no 2 ways you can doubt about it. There is going to be that Jekyll for these scans on these roamers. There is the Zero who has 4 SAM cams available to him to deny a piece of utility, but as well cover as a flank cam. There is no way TSM is going to be missing any of these players on a map like Consulate with limited rotation possibilities here. And as the pressure is rising slowly but steadily, they are going to have to drop as Merc drops Zachary. That is going to be the 2nd kill here for TSM. They have the opportunity to take the lead after Mkers had such a good attacking half themselves. So far, they have been unable to speak on the defense.
Well, hammering home steadily over the top, clearing their way towards the back of pipes to make sure nobody's playing on that swing on the bottom of yellow stairs. It's clearing towards utility and breaking anything that might stop the progress of the main garage wall. They want to stick this diffuser in a similar sort of place. The big concern here is the doubling down on that Tachanka and that smoke. They have so much to pop and burn around that back line. Make sure that, well, if you want to try and stick it, you're going to have to do it, and more than just the usual smoke, you're going to have to do it under the hail of fire as well. A missed grenade. It doesn't drop down. Looked like it might have rolled back there, but no, that means that they're still going to have that one cam giving the ideas, and as they try and creep around, 20 seconds. Look at the timer, look at the health ticking, and look at Geo swinging around, getting one and digging deep, going past the usual point for the smoke as they dig deep anyway, leaving just the Maestro above. Doesn't know there's a man behind him, and TSM with a flawless pullback.
They exactly played into how they wanted the execute to go. You want them to push from piano, you know, let them have that control. It doesn't matter anyway, because you're going to be trying to deny it with your evil eyes, with your smoke canisters, and the Shamika Molotovs that are coming out. Yet, even though TSM is pushing for that, even they're pushing through the garage, going into the spots they want them to be, they just get wall banged. And then the smoke's like, well, I got one more smoke canister, let's toss that in. Is going to be pushed out by the Jekyll that just went for it. Full send it. Got the kill, and TSM now in the lead. And for those of you who thought it would have been a clear map here from Mkers after they had a 4-2 split on the attack themselves, and we would be seeing a map number 3, well, all of them will be doubting themselves right now because TSM is leading. TSM currently has 5 rounds compared to the 4 of Mkers. And that means that round number 10, as ever, a very important round, because this will decide whether or not it will be Mkers on tournament points, as in they will go home if they lose the next couple of rounds, or if it will be Mkers that is starting to come back, that is starting to bring it back now. They're starting to finally respond, because you cannot really call it a comeback. They were in the lead for the majority of this game ever since round number 3, and now that's gone away. And now TSM has the opportunity to put the pressure really onto the Italians.
A tactical timeout, rightfully so, has been called. It's a game where TSM took the first 4 rounds from Mkers and then 4 rounds from TSM. The consistency of getting the diffuser down, of digging in against their opponent's defense, it's so good from both teams. But here with TSM, we're seeing them, I guess, light up a little bit more. They have so much momentum on this game. They also have that death knell, that looming shadow over any round that happens and plays out. They have one map.
Yeah.
Mkers do not. Mkers do not have long. They have 2 lost rounds left in them for now, for their run at SI. That's already been a hell of a dream. It's turning into a little bit of American nightmare right now. It's a lot that they've got to do.
I mean, no matter how you go about it, Mkers have already basically written history by being the first Italian squad that comes this far. And they've made it far. They're not even in Pro League. They're not even in Challenger League. And yet they find themselves here amongst the best teams in the world currently. And they're also putting up a fight. It's not like they're being 7-0'd by everybody. No, they're actually pulling it close. They were actually able to bring out some maps. And, for example, beat Cloud9, who is the top team in APAC North. So, no matter how you write it, Mkers have already written history. The question is, can they make it a little bit longer? Can they make their page just a little bit longer? As TSM is really putting the pressure on right now. They smell that Mkers is vulnerable. And they need to make use of this. As they're stacking up on the windows, time is of the essence.
You wonder what the conversation was, because it's hard to pull apart what has befallen them over the past 4 rounds, past few rounds, because it's been so solid from TSM. It's this whole swing of momentum. It's losing that early body, that opener. And now Sasha finds himself under a lot of pressure. Bolo is the first to get scraped and scratched. The hop out on Suicide Balk doesn't lead up to its own name, but the C4 doesn't catch anybody either. It's Sasha that actually digs close around the corner of the antechamber window to find Merc. Gets rid of the sledge, gets rid of those dangerous, well, remaining frag grenade. One had already been tossed and popped the hatch on the back line. And now let's see if they can get some concern. They are very concerned, though, about Suicide, about somebody just swinging out, putting their head and saying, hey there, how's it going? But Scatto, in the meantime, suffers in the exchange. Charla peppers some bullets towards the backline as Achieved screams over the top of the vertical, and Geo has found his way into Piano, swings onto one, gets the man around the backside. They're doubled down inside the Piano corner. Charla says, you plant, I'll cover, covers perfectly. TSM map and series point is on the cards and table.
It is on the table, and now it's do or die for Mkers. They cannot afford a single mistake anymore. TSM will knock them back down to Italy. Are they going to be able to come back now? Or is the pressure too intense? As said before, there is no shame here for Mkers in losing against TSM. If they would, they still put up a hell of a fight. But TSM, they are here to make a statement. They're here to show that their loss against Mkers in the group stage was a one-off and that it will not happen again. And they will want to do that with a 2-0. As you see the kills coming in right here that lead into a TSM round, even though they were on the back foot from that start. And we are going to the split side. It could be the final side that Mkers show here on SI. Are they going to be able to make this take? Are they going to be able to extend their lifetime just a little bit longer into round number 12, into potentially overtime to bring it back to a map number 3? Or will the story end here? For now. Because even if they lose, it's not the last we'll hear from Mkers. They're only just getting started right now.
High spirits from TSM, from NA Gunners, who we knew had a lot of potential and a lot riding on this and couldn't quite meet all of their marks yesterday. They looked for a period of this map like they were struggling as well. They looked like they didn't quite have the control that we expected from them. I guess it's also in terms of expectation, Mkers. That lack of consistency has, unfortunately, over this tournament come to bite them today after they had such a great day against Cloud9 yesterday, after they had such a great game against TSM last time they played. They haven't really been able to have too much solidly going their way. That mobility, that gun skill, that sharpness, what has been the core of such a great run throughout this tournament, has just felt a little dull. And that little dull has been entirely overshined by TSM's consistency on their control.
It is do or die for Mkers. We keep on mentioning it, and Akwi will start it off strong by picking up the first kill into Bolo. Man has been a nuisance. He's playing on that Jekyll. He is setting up a lot of pressure by getting these scans out every single time. And while Chala will respond, Akwi goes for a jump out, a very aggressive one, which will maybe cost them the game in the end. They tossed away the man advantage they had. And now there's 1 minute and 45 seconds left for the 4 men of TSM to find the 4 men of Mkers to make sure they progress through the lower bracket and to send Mkers home. There is still a bit of a struggle. There is a mirror window up that is holding off admin. That means they're possibly going to be completely denying that. TSM is just going to forget about it. The rushing side, actually. Geo is going to be about to enter. The plant is going down. Sasha has no clue.
He's stuck a C4 in the wrong space, and Charlotte's stuck one more down. There's the swing onto the diffuser planner. It goes a bit cold, but the pressure is still red hot. Screams round the side, achieved on the backside of site, takes it Scatto with the response and revenge. The isolated diffuser is between two bodies. They swing round, he's behind you, he's on a triple, and Charlotte's able to slip away, break the mold of somebody dying for every single trade that's come through. There it is, just a slip at the last second of post-plot, and a team kill. Charla, he's having everybody for dinner, including his own. Can he be the last one eating? Lolo goes for one more attempt at a huge clutch on the close corners. It's peppered bullets and a pistol for a potential pre-fire round in the side. He hits zero, he gets it, and Mkers get one more attempt.
A gift given by Charla as he manages to get the team kill will allow Mkers to come back for now. One more round and we find ourselves in overtime. It could have been a TSM round. They decided to not go for that top floor. They decided to completely ignore it and go down to the basement. Go down to try and get the plant happening. But not quite yet. Not quite yet. Mkers holding on for now. They're holding on to the tournament live, the last one they have, because there is no losing in the lower bracket. And TSM have that extra map. They have the extra match point right now. Can Mkers bring this back to overtime, or can they not? Because that retake, well, it was almost a little bit gifted to them.
It was. There was a situation there where you're so laser focused on everything, and I said it, Charla broke that trade for trade system. Broke that moment. It's tough to have the concern. It's tough to have the control of everything going your way. And
It is such an unfortunate...
Swung around for that attempt on a body, but blocked by a player of your own. Then it comes down to this ring around the rosy situation. Then it comes down to, can we be the last one standing? And it's pistol pre-fires around corners. Yeah, it couldn't have been closer to the wire.
It couldn't have been, and you just saw on the replay there, the swung by came, like he was holding the angle, he sees the defender move, but at that moment, your teammate gets off the defuse and steps to the left as well to make his way out, and at the moment you pull the trigger, he steps in front, you get the headshot instead, and not the kill that you were looking for, and with that, Mkers find themselves back into the match, potentially. Because so far they have not been able to really speak onto their defenses. Going for that basement again, or lobby rather. Are they going to be able to make it happen? Are they going to be able to bring this to OT? Their tournament is on the line. No matter what though, it's no shame if they would lose. I do not want to see them lose. I want to go to a map number 3 here. But just to make that clear, they already outshunned themselves. And they're going to be trying to do that yet once again as TSM is looking to close out this match. TSM is looking to continue throughout the lower bracket as they might have been a NA tournament favorite and found themselves knocked down early on. They need this round. They need this match. They cannot afford to lose this map.
There's a big stack of blue bodies on those piano windows yet again. They did lose the first to the close swing on Antichamber, but there was a lot of attempts on places and plays like Suicide that they couldn't quite catch. No intense rush as of yet, but last time we were here, Gio dug himself into the back of site with the cover of Charla to make sure that they could take the bodies. It was 2 swung by as they slipped past, and Bolo gets the opener here against Lolo, left thinking this. With the long-range angle held by Acqui, almost gets the punishment back. Bolo went for blood, and Merc has lost most of his, which when you're going up against the smoke, you've got a Rooney Gates, you've got danger on the cards and a C4 and an impact. That is a very tricky situation to be in.
Just a single zap of the Evil Eye will remove his life as Merc tosses in the grenade right now and gets a kill to Sasha. Yet the man advantage will fall into TSM's favor and will be increasing with the seconds, with the minutes. And now Acqui will find himself, fetches the man that is going to be rappelling in. That is the diffuser dropped onto the side as well. Are they going to be able to hold on to that as they start rotating around? The Chief picks up another kill as well. Gemini will drop, and that leaves us with only Scatter and Acqui left in a 2-on-4 situation. Are they going to be able to turn this around, or will this be TSM that will knock out the Italians?
Drone the whole time on the connector. He wants to drop down, but look at the pressure. There's one coming up Visa. There's one under the hatch. There's only one player left, and it's Acqui, but he's found his 3rd for the round. He's swinging around for his 4th, but the body above makes it a very dangerous entrance. They're going to hit the hatch. That's pinged, though. They know exactly where he is, so he swings deep for the diffuser, gets the quad, and now just has to try and take the vertical here. Is he going to stick it? He's holding on for now. They're going to give the call. They're going to say he's going for it. No! Achieve takes it for TSM, who survive one more day.
Almost the ace coming in there for Acqui with the MK14 to keep them in it, to push them to overtime, but it was not allowed to be. The vertical control was there for TSM and they will survive. They showed that the loss against Mkers in the group stage was just a one-off. And they showed that they would not let it happen again. Achieve with 13, Bolo with 11, you'll see it all later, but Mkers, you have fought for your lives, you have fought valiantly, and there's no shame in losing here at SI.
It's been such a great run from a team that had, even though they beat 5 Tier 1 teams, a little amount of expectation. It's been a heck of a run, and you got to give them credit, as I'm sure they will on the desks. Hold your heads high, but today TSM hold them higher. Let's throw it over to Milos and let him break this one down.
Thank you so much, M and Hap, and what an impressive game from Mkers down to the wire, but in the end, as we were talking about, experience trumps them.
I think the pressure they were applying all map long was phenomenal, to be honest with you. Every single round, it felt like Mkers couldn't quite get a game plan together, and TSM, as soon as they thought for a second that Mkers had a room to breathe, to make a roam happen, to go for a big play, bam, straight away, shut down, caught on the drone, caught in a crossfire. TSM look super comfortable. You can see why a lot of teams fear them on a map like Consulate. I think, again, coming into it, you looked at the first map and said that's the coastline pick coming out from Mkers. They'd be a bit better there. This one was much closer, but I think it came down to a lot of very scrappy rounds, and the last one, almost sending us into overtime, was a 4K for Acqui as well, Ace.
I think that map sums up Mkers' performance here at Invitational pretty well. You know, they made a real show of it. They made a real game of it. They didn't roll over. They weren't beaten until the very end. And, you know, they can walk away with their heads held high. They have, you know, overachieved here, I think, in many people's minds at the Invitational. And what a great performance, what great entertainment they've been.
How did it get so close on map 2? If you ask me, everybody that needed to step up from TSM stepped up. Bolo, oh my god, impressive plays. We saw it achieved through the series. Gio, Chala, everybody was in here, and that was necessary. And again, that's the TSM we expect to see in the playoffs of the big daddy of them all, the Six Invitational.
This is it, right? Look back at Coastline. We were talking about those first few rounds, and Achieve walked away with 11 kills just to himself. This one, a much more balanced affair. You can see it between Bolo and him, still doing big work. So Achieved is going to be buzzing with his performance in this series. Absolutely massive. On the other side, the normal suspects that you'd see going big, Gemini, Lolo, not really anywhere to be seen in this one, unfortunately, Ace. And I think in a game like this, you need those two to be going big. Just speaks volumes of the pressure that TSM were applying.
Absolutely, like you say, in this stage of the tournament, you need absolutely everybody turning up and firing on all cylinders. And it's been a matter of time for Achieved really through the tournament. A little bit quiet, but certainly shown up today, both on Coastline and here on Consulate when TSM needed him. That cruises them through to the next round, and they are steady away at this point.
Number 3, the position that we found TSM last Invitational in 2020. Now they'll be playing against the winner of BDS and Furia in the lower bracket. They will